I completely believe that Karmelo Anthony was innocent and should have been exonerated of all charges. And if they did feel that he was culpable in what happened, then why not go with an aggravated manslaughter? And the reason I'm bringing that up is there was another case in Texas involving a white student by the name of Kason Allison. And Kason Allison invited a Latino kid into the school's bathroom for a fight, although he didn't let the Latino kid know that he would be armed with a knife. And he stabs the kid intentionally 4 times. The child dies. And instead of being charged with murder, I believe he was charged with aggravated manslaughter, given 10 years. He'll be home in 5 years. Whereas Karmelo got 35. So Karmelo would have to do 17 and a half years before he could seek parole. How do you get 5 versus 35?
All right, we are back, folks. You've entered the right verdict, where 3 voices bring you one standard of justice. From viral trials to shocking verdicts, we break down the facts, evidence, and legal drama in real time. All right, so if you love true crime and bold justice talk, you're in the right place. And tonight we have a special guest with us tonight, attorney Dennis Spurling. All right, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. You best looking people I've hung out with in a long time. Usually I get a bunch of ugly dudes on YouTube and they want to scream at me. So I'm happy to be here.
And they always want to be in front of the camera too, don't they?
They want to yell at me. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, man, you don't have to yell about it. We can just talk.
Right. No reason to be nasty.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm humbly appreciative for your invitation. Thank you so much.
All right, we are excited to have you on. Before we dig into this case, please shout out your channel, also any other social media you'd like to share with the audience. Please let them know where they can find you.
You can Dennis Spurling or the Spurling Report, and then I'll have a Law and Legacy channel. They pretty much they mirror each other, but they're slightly different. And so you get a different feel from each channel. But I'm like I said, you can pretty much catch me anywhere. And I really do this out of a labor of love, because I think the public needs to be informed. But more importantly, there's a lot of people out there rage baiting the public. And, misinformation oftentimes causes misunderstanding. And that's why we have a lot of conflict. And conflict is not good for anybody here in the United States, because especially Texas, too many guns, too many crazy people on medicine. So, I do the best I can to try to, throw some that cold truth on some of these hot lies. You understand what I'm saying? That's
absolutely. We need it. We need it because there's so many lies out there right now. And that brings us to this case. So we've talked about the Karmelo Anthony case at an extent, extensively, I should say, here and on Poppin' Politics. And so what now we're seeing, however, are a lot of people are comparing the Karmelo Anthony case and the verdict to the Kason Tyler Allison case. And so for people who may not know, that was what happened there. It was a confrontation escalated into a fight. Cell phone video showed at the trial captured Ramirez throwing the first punch at Allison. Allison produced a knife and stabbed Ramirez multiple times. Allison was arrested off campus about 20 minutes later. All right. And so people are comparing the outcome of the trials. So want to get your thoughts on what we just saw in that video. Are you familiar with Dr. Umar?
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Dr. Umar. I have great respect for Dr. Umar. However, I think oftentimes people will take a narrative and run with it because it creates likes and views. And I understand that, but I am not interested in causing chaos or conflict where it's unnecessary. There's enough out there. Now, the media narrative around Kason Allison and Karmelo Anthony is it's not just comparing sentences. One young man was charged with murder, and he ended up with I believe it's aggravated assault or something. I have to check real quick in my notes, but bottom line is the white teenager stabbed somebody, he got 10 years. The black teenager stabbed somebody, he got 35 years. Okay. But it's a lot more to that. And I think if we talked about the facts, if you guys want to go into that level of detail, we can do that. But you know, he was convicted of manslaughter. I'm sorry, he was convicted of criminal negligent homicide. He was charged with manslaughter, and he was also charged with murder. But the jury found the lesser included charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now, Karmelo Anthony, he was charged with murder and manslaughter, and that's within the range of based on the facts that the prosecution have, and he ended up with the murder charge. But I think people are missing the fact that just because one is white, one is black, there were similar ages and it happened similar time period in the state of Texas. They don't understand the facts. And if I introduce some facts, I think you guys will understand why the jury found differently. So it's not just a black and white question. That's my thing.
Right. And so that's what I want to kind of, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but what are the major differences in the case that made one case like Karmelo Anthony got 35 years for murder, and the other case he didn't get that. He got get 10 years. Less than 10 years, right?
Well, actually he got 2
years, right? Okay.
But the judge gave him an enhancement for using an aggravated weapon. So that kid was going to walk out of there in a year. And let me just tell you something. When you really hear about the facts of the case, he probably should have been found innocent.
Ooh, okay.
He probably should have. I think the only reason he went to jail is because the jury said, hey, you know what? This is a body, and we're just not going to let people in the state of Texas. And that's when, you know, you never want to be tried by a jury, because if you look at the breakdown and what really happened, well, let me do this. Let's recap Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. So that incident happened on April 2nd, 2025. It was a stabbing at a Frisco track meet north of Dallas, which is a suburb. The place is, you know, that county has about 1.2 million people, so it's not a small town. There's about 250,000 people in Frisco itself, so that's not a small town. It's not a small county. Karmelo stabbed, both of them were 17 at the time. According to the coroner, the knife entered the right side of his body, chest, and penetrated the I forget what the name of the actual
one of the chambers of his heart.
Yeah, one of the chambers of his heart. And it happened during a track meet in Frisco at Kuykendall Stadium. It was a rainy day, and there's 20-30 witnesses. Plenty of places to go. You could have went up, you could have went down, you could have got out of there. There was no lead up to that. They just met each other. There was no prior feud. They didn't know each other. Okay, I want you to remember that. This was an incident. It happened spontaneous. They didn't know each other. Karmelo had a weapon. He had a knife. Okay, he had a knife. All right, Austin didn't know he had a knife. None of the witnesses testified that Austin Metcalf had a knife, a gun, a bat, a pair of chopsticks. He had nothing. Okay, now there's been some internet rumor that, you know, Karmelo is being jumped, but the 20 witnesses that testified, even his own witnesses, nobody said that he was being jumped. If we look at the video, you know, it lasted about 4 or 5 seconds. But in that particular case, you got a dead body, you got a murder weapon, you got an admission that he did it, you got an autopsy report proving causation, and on top of that, you got 20 witnesses in a video. So how do you get around that? Okay, in what state does that person walk free, scot-free? Okay, pretty much nowhere. Okay, so now
and Mr. Spurling, before you go on, because you mentioned the knife, you mentioned that's also been a point of contention. by some pretty big names. Another attorney is pushing back against that. Take a look at this next clip. This is Jasmine Crockett.
Rep. Crockett, you might have seen that Karmelo Anthony was sentenced to 35 years. I want to get your reaction to the trial and the verdict.
My heart breaks for so many reasons. And so I was just speaking to a student that is shadowing me who wants to be a public defender. And so it takes me back to what actually made me decide to get into this legislative work in the first place, because I know that our systems are broken. And what we saw with that verdict is the evidence of a broken system. Now listen, from everything that I understand, which I wasn't at the trial because obviously I got a day job, but it's my understanding that Karmelo ended up stabbing, puncturing, I don't know what this tool was that they talk about, knife, or some refer to it as a tool. He ended up hitting Austin one time, and it was about where he hit him. One time, 2 inches. This wasn't someone who said, hey, let me stab you 5, 6, 7 times. And so when you're looking at the punishment range, there's a reason in Texas that it goes from 5 to 99 or life, because you are looking at how intentional, like how bad was this? 35 years for a kid who had decided to go under a tent that was not his team's tent as it was raining, and simply didn't want to be put out in the rain by some random kid that he didn't know who was larger than him.
Okay. So I wanted to bring that up because you were talking about the wound, and she's intentionally saying that multiple times, because in the Allison case, the stabbing detailed he stabbed, there were multiple wounds, but whereas in Karmelo Anthony's, it was a single chest stab. Now she's saying because it's a single chest stab, that also should have led to a lesser sentence. What are your thoughts there?
Well, did he die?
Right. Now, to your point, Dennis, attorney, some people will say they both died. Both victims died in both cases. And there were 2 knives, one knife on well, each case had a knife. Each case involved young men, teenagers, if you will. Of course, the location and the geography were different. One was an outside tent area, a track. One was inside of a school restroom. So people would say that this is what's being out there in the, I guess, in the media sphere, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, but there's a lot to that. The big thing.
I want to just wait a minute, Nicole. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Dennis? I want to hear, because I want to address these. These are some of the similarities that people are pointing out.
Well, first of all, let's establish that in the state of Texas, a dangerous weapon is legally defined as a weapon under Texas Penal Code subsection or section 1.07, and that includes a firearm or anything manifestly designed, made, or adapted for the purpose of inflicting death or serious bodily injury. And the second definition is anything that in the manner of its use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. Let me ask you a question. Is a baseball bat a deadly weapon?
Yes.
It could be.
Is a car a deadly weapon?
Yes.
Could be.
So both of those fall under anything that in the manner of its use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. That's the only thing I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So what the honorable congresswoman is suggesting is that, oh, he only stabbed him once. Okay, well, there's another part of the law that says you take the victim as you find them. Okay, he's dead. We have a body, we have a deadly weapon being produced in a conflict, and we have another person who is unarmed. So that's where the rationale starts and stops. We don't go into, oh, well, he only killed him a little bit. What if I told you, you're just a little pregnant, just a little bit pregnant. You're not pregnant all the way. How much sense does that make? If you got a 15-year-old daughter and she said, Mom, I'm just a little pregnant. Don't be mad at me. How would that make you feel? Huh? I'd be like, you don't sit yourself, you are all the way or nothing. You're dead.
Right.
But and that's pretty much the way the court looks at it. We're not going to play these semantic games. You die. Whether you die by rat poison, AK-47, you get pushed off a cliff, somebody killed you, you're dead. Right. So let's not get sidetracked, because people have itineraries and they have agendas. But let me help you out. So we understand what happened in this young man, Anthony's situation. They didn't know each other. We can all agree with that, right? These two boys just ran up on each other and it happened. Kaysen Allison and Jose Ramirez had a prior relationship, not relationship like anything like that, but they knew each other. So let me give you a scenario. So on April 22nd, mind you, the stabbing happened at Belton High School on May 3rd, 2022. Okay, what the media is not telling you is that Kaysen and Jose Ramirez, they went to school together. They had some prior run-ins, and one in particular stands out. Prom night, there was a conflict. Okay, it was a conflict between Kaysen Allison and Jose Ramirez, and allegedly began at an after party. Now in Texas, the prom kind of precedes the graduation. I believe they were going to graduate at the end of May. I think it was May 29th, 2022. And so here's your prom, April. Everybody's a senior. And the jury heard testimony that they had a heated argument at the after prom party. Okay. And one of Ramirez's friends pulled a pew-pew on Allison. Okay, so now I want you to picture that. I want you to hear me out. Okay. One of your friends pulls a gun on you. One of his friends. That's what they're saying. And let me tell you how this information came out. So in the middle of the trial, there was an evidentiary hearing. I assume that the defense counsel wanted to introduce a recording where it stated that Kaysen had a gun pulled on him by one of Ramirez's friends at this after prom party. Okay, there was a big to-do. They cleared the jury out, and they argued, and the judge ended up letting it in because the state was arguing there's no authentication for it, and the jury and the defense counsel said yes, there is. Bottom line is the jury heard, and I want everybody to listen to me. The jury, who is the finder of fact, heard that Jose Ramirez's friends, whom he was with at the time, pulled a gun on Kaysen Allison. Can everybody say dangerous weapon?
Okay? Dangerous weapon.
Dangerous weapon. All right. So now that's in April 22nd, 2022. So at some point, Allison sends a text message to one of his friends because this conflict is ongoing. He said, bro, bring me a gun. Why would he say bring me a gun? Because remember what happened on the after prom, one old buddy's friends pulled a gun on him. And this conflict is escalating. All right. Now, on the day of the stabbing, keep in mind, prom is probably middle of April, late April. We talking a couple of weeks later. The beef is still going. Okay. It's May 3rd, 2022. This is the day of the stabbing at Belton High School. These are the facts. This is what the jury heard, not what the internet said. This is what the jury heard. The jury heard this boy is still going to school with the dude and the group of dudes that allegedly pulled a gun on. This is what the jury heard. What is his mindset at that point? Okay. He telling his homeboy, look, I need a gun too. They got one, I got one. Now on the day of the actual stabbing, it was a mutual agreement between Allison and Ramirez, which is Kaysen Allison. We're going to meet up after school, not in school, after school and handle our business. So at that point, Kaysen armed himself with a knife. Now, what was his mindset? The homeboys just pulled a pin, and this is what the jury heard. This is the jury is sitting there saying, well, you know, he did say he pulled a gun on him. So what would be your mindset? You got your home, you asked your friend to bring you a gun. You obviously you didn't have one. So what did you do? You armed yourself with the next best thing. He armed himself with a knife. Now here's how it went down. They're in Belton High School. All right. His friend Biddle, this is what the jury heard, not me. His friend who was with him, I believe the last name was Biddle. Mind you, all these men these were 18-year-olds. No, they're not 17. They were going to the bathroom, and when they got in the bathroom, they met up with Jose Ramirez. The testimony was it was accidental. They didn't know they were there. When the guys finished using the bathroom, the two young guys finished using the restroom, the other guys wouldn't let them leave. Jose Ramirez had 5 people in there. It was him plus 4 others. And it was Kaysen Allison and his one friend. They finished going to the bathroom. They tried to leave. Those other guys wouldn't let them leave. This is what the jury heard. So now you got a 5-on-2. Okay. Now, what was his mindset? The homeboys just pulled a pin. And this is what the jury heard. This is what the jury is sitting there saying, well, you know, he did say he pulled a gun on him. So what would be your mindset? You got your home, you asked your friend to bring you a gun. You obviously you didn't have one. So what did you do? You armed yourself with the next best thing. He armed himself with a knife. Now here's how it went down. They're in Belton High School. All right. His friend Biddle, this is what the jury heard. They got in the bathroom, and when they got in the bathroom, they met up with Jose Ramirez. The testimony was it was accidental. They didn't know they were there. When the guys finished using the bathroom, the two young guys finished using the restroom, the other guys wouldn't let them leave. Jose Ramirez had 5 people in there. It was him plus 4 others. And it was Kaysen Allison and his one friend. They finished going to the bathroom. They tried to leave. Those other guys wouldn't let them leave. This is what the jury heard. Now, what is Kaysen thinking? When was the last time he saw all these dudes? I'm not saying when. When was the last time? What happened at the last conflict?
The gun.
Somebody did what?
Somebody threatened to bring a gun, or
no, somebody.
Dangerous weapon.
No, they heard, the jury heard that one of the friends had pulled a gun on him.
Right.
So if you're Kaysen, right, you get hit, your friend tries to break up the fight, he gets hit by the other guy. So Ramirez hit Kaysen, right? Wouldn't let him go, hit him. They wouldn't let him out. Biddle tries to break up the fight between Jose and Jose Ramirez's stepbrother hits his friend Biddle. So now you got 2 people on 2, but you got 3 other dudes in there with you that's backing you up. And guess who thinks you have a gun?
Kaysen Allison.
Right. So put yourself in the mindset of that young man. So he pulled out the knife and he hit him. I think he hit him in the lungs. I think he hit him in the shoulder. When the dude hit the ground, he hit him in the back of the arm and the leg, and he got out of there and ran home. Okay, or not ran home, but he made his way home. So understand that.
Wow.
All right, he got home 20 minutes later. So first of all, let's examine the differences between the 2 cases. One case, the victim had a prior encounter with this gentleman and his friends, and they had a gun. That's what the jury heard. Okay. He obviously feared for his life. You got 5 people in there. We're not talking about 1-on-1. We're not even talking about 2-on-2. The jury heard that there was testimony 5 people in the bathroom with him, all 5 of them against 2. That automatically sounds like it's an unfair fight to me. And when you throw in the fact that he was afraid that they pulled a gun on him, I mean, they pulled it on after prom. That's pretty bold. And so, that's a different set of circumstances to me. So now when you compare that to Karmelo Anthony, Karmelo didn't know Austin. There was never any production. He didn't think he had a weapon on him. And so he just pulled a knife and shot and hit him in the chest with the blade. That's a very different scenario. You don't have a lead up. You have a one-time incident. Now, the other thing is Kaysen was convicted of Kaysen Allison wasn't convicted of murder because the jury realized that this is self-defense. If I reasonably believe that my life is in danger, the jury is asking the question at the moment. How do you feel at that moment? You're in the bathroom, you and your boy, you get hit, your homeboy get hit, you think these other people have a gun, and so you pull out your knife and stab him and get up out of there because there's still 4 other dudes in there once you finish with this one. So I'm supposed to stab him once, let him get up, stab him again, see if he dead, keep stabbing. It's not a test case. You're out of there, you see? And again, they have something called this concept that self-defense is an imperfect defense. What that means is you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to act as a reasonable person. Sometimes reasonable people are wrong. The question is, did you in their mind act as a reasonable person would to preserve your life? Did you think you were in danger? Is there reason to believe you're in danger? Obviously so. Pulled a gun on you before. You 5 deep against you and your homeboy, they hit you, hit your homeboy, they don't care about nothing. You don't know what they have on. This is what the jury heard. I'm just trying to help y'all go through what the jury heard. Now, the other thing I want to throw out there is that this particular county is 40% white, about 25% black, and 35% Hispanic. So if we go by the makeup of the county, because there's no evidence as to what the jury makeup was, we're looking at a mixed jury. You got a white boy and a Hispanic, a white young man and a Hispanic young man. So there invariably is going to be some Hispanic people on the jury. This is where the racism comes in. We're not going to let you stab this little Hispanic boy, just walk out of here free. Even though we didn't find murder because it was self-defense. We didn't find manslaughter because it was self-defense, but we got to hit you with something. So we're going to hit you with this criminal negligent homicide. Now, if it's self-defense, then it's self-defense. Why am I getting hit with a criminal negligent homicide? Judge, if I fear for my life, I know what the lesser included charge says, but damn, I fear for my life. Why would you hit me with that? And so, the jury deliberated. They came back. They hit him with the criminally negligent homicide. And then the judge looked at it and said, and I think it was a white judge, dude. The judge looked at, well, you know what? You used the weapon in the commission of this act. So I'm gonna throw on another 8 years. But other than that, that boy is supposed to walk out of there free. If nothing else, he was supposed to get 2 years, and he'll be out in a year, more or less. But that's not what the jury said. But it's a different fact pattern, different scenario. If I run up on you with a gun last week, and then you see me again, and I square off and hit you in your jaw, and me and all my homeboys around you, and I done already pulled a gun on you before, what are you gonna think? What are you gonna think? You gonna think your life is in danger? These people got guns on them, and I don't have a gun, but I'm gonna go ahead and use what I can to spare my life. That's what happened. You see the difference?
It's crazy though, because what you're saying is the total opposite of what we've been hearing on the internet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you said that you brought out the racism, but you're saying that the white boy may have had some type of racism against him.
No, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for a couple of those Hispanics on that jury that said, "Nah, we ain't gonna let this white boy just kill a Hispanic dude and just walk out of here." Mm-hmm. If it was because I'm just saying, here's what happens in those juries. They have to come to some kind of agreement. There's no rational reason why you would find somebody would have in my mind, you have a legitimate self-defense. Okay, you literally protected yourself. You brought a knife to a gunfight and you end up walking out of there alive. Okay, think about that. So I'm thinking, and I don't know the jury makeup, so this is purely speculation. Okay, but if I'm a Hispanic person and I know this is a dead 18-year-old Hispanic boy and this white boy done killed him, I'm not leaving. We not gonna let him out of here. You folks might not agree to murder. Y'all might not even agree to manslaughter, but we're gonna put him in jail for something. And so that's what the jury does some haggling behind there. They do. I think they deliberated for 12 hours. So that's a long time. Like, if it was a clear-cut case. And so that's what they did. Criminal negligent homicide was an agreement between the jurors to charge them with something. And then the judge saw that and said, nah, this is Texas. You're not going to kill somebody and just walk away scot-free. That's not how we do things down here. Might work in New York, might work in New Jersey, might work in California. But if you kill somebody in the state of Texas, you're going to jail, even if you're a white boy with a valid self-defense argument. And so when I look at this case, it's like, I've had people pull guns on me before. I don't even want to ever be around them. Imagine you have somebody pull a gun on you in April. You got to see them in a couple of weeks. You stuck going to school. If you're trying to graduate at the end of May, so it's not like you can avoid the situation. You got to see them. And then you happen to run across these cats in the bathroom. Now, keep in mind, they were supposed to fight after school. So let's put that in context. Mm-hmm. He brought the knife with him because he thought he was going to have to run into this dude after school and deal with them, their friends, and his gun. And that's what he brought. But it just so happened the circumstances were that, he ran across them and they caught him in the bathroom. So, those are the facts. Y'all tell me yeah.
No, I mean, you laid it out very well. This is my question I've been thinking about even more so, since the Karmelo Anthony case. Now, one of the things I noticed is that pretty much nobody, unless you were in Texas in that county, you didn't really know about the Case and Allison case until Karmelo Anthony's case came to fore in the last month or so. Why is that? Why didn't we know that? And I have my own thoughts about it, but why is that? And of course, the main narrative that we hear in the media, on social media, it's all race-based, okay? Yeah. I don't believe that, but I just noticed that we did not. The media, in my never to be humble opinion, amplifies certain cases at certain times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Well, yeah, it has a lot. It's a narrative. Let me kind of break it down for you. So you got it. You got the media narrative was largely been built around a very easy to understand talking point. White teenager stabs someone, receives 10 years. Black teenager stabs someone, gets 35 years. It gives people a clean racial contrast. There's a clean political argument and a clean emotional hook. See, but the problem with that narrative is that it strips away the actual facts, the actual charges, the actual evidence, the actual jury findings, and the actual legal distinctions between the two cases. Let me give you an example. So there's nothing sensational about either one of these cases. This is a knife fight. Knife fight, somebody got stabbed. If it was 2 black boys, you wouldn't hear about it. If it was 2 white boys, you wouldn't hear about it. 2 Hispanic boys, you wouldn't hear about it. Now, let me tell you what's going on that you all never heard of. There's a lady who's charged with the murder of her 4 children. She shot them to death. And this is in the Houston area. Hadn't heard anything about it. That is sensational. That is like, oh my God, that's a real tragedy. I hate to say it, like 2 young men stabbing each other to death. When is that ever news? When is a case like that divide the country? There's nothing to make. They didn't use any automatic weapons. There's no explosives involved. None of that. So what that tells you is that people look for this because it brings eyeballs. It creates conflict. It creates division. It creates cliques. Other people who say, see, we impress. We oppress people. Look how they do us. They put a jet. They use that. They build a narrative. But when you look at the facts, these are 2 different cases. These are just, people exploit. What do they say? Never let a good
good deed goes unpunished, or never let a tragedy go to waste.
Yeah, never let a tragedy go to waste. And people benefit from this. I don't see none of these people like Karmelo Anthony. None of these people like Jose Ramirez. None of these people like the Austin Metcalf. They just doing it for clicks and likes. It feeds a mantra, it feeds a narrative, but these are real life people that are suffering. And
but what we have seen, yes, these are real life people, and honestly nobody knows them, but we have seen this break on racial lines, and it does feel like particularly in the Karmelo Anthony case that it's breaking on racial lines, and then Black folks are just coming up with all kinds of so-called facts and narratives. Take a look at this next clip. I don't know where these people get this from, but this is something that's out there in the internet and in mainstream culture about this case.
There is an alleged post from Austin, from, of course, before he passed, that, he had 2 assault rifles on his, resting on himself in the car, saying that I dare one of the monkeys to come to this track meet today. But this is someone where, Karmelo Anthony was a 3.7 GPA student working 2 jobs. But he's the one that we're supposed to believe is a thug.
Of course, because that's how they see us. They want everything is good because it's white. And then when it comes to Black, it's angry, it's violent, and it's everything that they don't want.
And this is why I say nothing is entertainment, because movies have been made all along telling you exactly the truth. And we viewed it as entertainment, and now we're having to come back again and understanding that it's just, truth.
We are the entertainment. We are the show at the end of the day. I had a whole conversation with my son today, my 18-year-old son, and I'm telling him, as I'm running him around all day long trying to get his knee fixed to play football, bro, you playing a white man's game. Yes. You're at 18 years old. You're putting your body on the line to be their pawn, and you are nothing to them. Nothing. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to start pushing our kids to be court jesters?
All right. So this video has gotten millions of views, but it's not a one-off. We are seeing in particular Black women are coming out about this case, speaking with some authority, and they have no idea, no clue of what they're talking about. I mean, Mr. Spurling, have you heard anything that they said to be part of the case that Metcalf came out with 2 guns he had and he said he wanted to kill 2 monkeys today?
I mean, it's not about what I heard, it's what the jury heard.
Okay.
And I don't see how that's relevant to that boy getting stabbed in the chest for a push. At the end of the day, you don't kill somebody, even if you don't like them, even if they're racist. You can't stab them for pushing you. You can do a lot of other. You can defend yourself. You can push them back. You can push them. You can kick them in the groin. You can step on their foot. You can hit them in the mouth. You can do a lot of things, but you can't pull a dangerous weapon and kill somebody just because somebody pushed you. So that's the first thing we need to understand. Now, my personal take, and this is not a legally related statement, so I'm kind of going out of my wheelhouse a little bit, but people like attention, and sometimes people like to center themselves in attention. When they see something else getting a lot of attention, they would like to insert themselves. What about me? Oh, I had to tell my son Oh my God, you. So now what? People, oh, poor you. They center themselves. Has nothing to do with you, Karmelo Anthony, his family, Austin Metcalf, his family. And let me tell you something else. I'm old enough now that I can go ahead and tell you what I think, and I don't care anymore what people think. In the United States of America, our favorite sport is racism. It is a sport, whether you black, whether you white, whether you're Hispanic, whatever. When you get over here, you pick a team. Sometimes you're an auxiliary. We love it. We love playing the race game. Everybody does it. It's the national pastime. People think baseball. No, if one of our guys stabs and kills your guy, we're gonna make every excuse possible. Say, oh, coach, it wasn't a foul, ref. Don't foul us for that. Don't put them in jail, because that's part of the game. How many of theirs can we get? How many of ours do they get before we get up? And so they keep the score. Whether we talking about O.J. Simpson, I mean, they still bringing that up. Whether we're talking about Mike Vick, he kicked some dogs and he went to jail. You see what I mean? So it's the game that we play, and that's why reasonable minds have to prevail. You just have to recognize, number one, is my opinion. You can be mad at me if you want to, but it's written in the Constitution. Race has always been a part of the United States ethos. It's not going anywhere. It belongs to people's strongly held beliefs. They don't stop. They don't lose and leave their perceptions, their prejudice, their bigotry at the courthouse door, at the schoolhouse door, at the boardroom door. They bring that in there with them. Your job is to be the best person that you can be and force them to change how they perceive you. That's what our ancestors did. That's what Frederick Douglass did. That's what Booker T. Washington did. That's what all our greats, George Washington Carver did. That's what Jackie Robinson did. That's what Michael Jordan did. There was a time when they said black men weren't good enough to play basketball. Now look at the NBA. Well, not now, because it looked like the Lakers. They're going back to all white. But the bottom line is, you can't change people's perception and their strongly held beliefs. That's the first thing you learn practicing law. They're going to feel how they feel. The question is, can you follow the law? But as long as people want to play, look, as I said, race is not going anywhere. It's like weather. It's just something you have to deal with. I'm not trying to change how you feel about me. I'm just simply trying to, you don't have to like me. I don't care. I don't care if black people like me. I don't care if white people like me, because I like myself. You see, and that's really all that matters. And so, no, I'm not trying to, it's not going to go anywhere. But again, at the end of the day, it's only what the jury heard. People can say whatever they want to say for clicks and likes. They can center themselves. But, there's some hurting families out there. Karmelo's family is hurting. I know they're hurting. I know the idea that your 17-year-old son with all this promise is now going to go to penitentiary for 35 years. At least he's sent it. That's painful. That's a loss. Austin Metcalf's father. This man is lashing out. He's angry. This dude initially tried to come in, pray with these people, and then for whatever reason they didn't want to pray with him. I understand that. I would probably say, no, well, let's just keep separate, and but I get it. We appreciate. I would send a message, being respectful. We understand, but because of the litigation, we don't want this to be inferred as any guilt or anything like that. But thank you so much. I'd have been a lot more, I would say, classy and reserved. And I've said this on my broadcast. I believe in quiet wars. I believe in handling things quietly. I don't need to be a spectacle. I don't need to be the center of attention. And the worst thing you want to do is bring a whole bunch of attention to yourself during a murder trial. When your child is up for murder, and I don't want to curse because, but I have a Nigerian professor that I love to death who's over at TSU, and he would say, shut the fuck up. That's what he would tell the class. That's what you do. Quiet. Just shut up. Because the more attention you bring to the case, the more people are going to make decisions and about the case before they even get on the jury. And they're going to, so just be quiet. And, but it's a lot I could say about that. But again, I don't want to go too far off the law. And but those are my thoughts about that.
Nicole.
Yes.
Well, he's already answered the question I had for him, but let's focus a little bit, if you will, on how the cases proceeded. When you talk about the defense for Kaysen Allison and the defense for Karmelo Anthony, for Kaysen, they think they had like 8 or 10 witnesses for the defense who talked about the event from the beginning to the end. And what we saw what we saw with Karmelo Anthony is I think they had 3, and 2 of those 3 witnesses really didn't bring any additional facts to the case. They just kind of talked about their relationship with Karmelo and how he kept saying over and over again, he put his hands on me, but they didn't bring any reasoning as to why this would have happened, any backstory to what happened. How do you think those 2 defense teams, because Carmelo's defense team has been catching a lot of flack about not really, quote unquote, putting on a case to defend him. Although I don't know how much you would ask.
Let me just ask you a question. Like, what would you say to make that body disappear? Go ahead. Let's hear what you got.
Nothing.
What do you do to make those 20, you know, they had this movies called Men in Black, and they was hold this thing up in front of people's eyes and make them. What would you say to the jury to make those 20 witnesses to make them unsee what they saw? I mean, since the public is talking about a defense, lawyers are not magicians, okay? They can't change the facts. All they can do is deal with it. Let me tell you, they lucky that boy didn't get a capital murder charge. Okay, they lucky he didn't get 99 years, because you could have put him up on the stand, and instead of getting 35 years, he might have got a 75 years. There's a dead body, there's a murder weapon, there's an admission, there's 20 witnesses, there's a video recording. What lawyer can talk you out of being put in prison? That's what I want to know. What magical words? I want to hear him, because this is the type of dude they got. If he can talk like that, the only man that could do that, he got the whole neighborhood pregnant, and they all knew about it.
So to Nicole's point,
I mean, he's spitting it. If he can do that, there's nothing you can do about it.
So to Nicole's point, I don't know legally what he could have said as far as legally in the courtroom. But to Nicole's point, I was thinking the same thing. I thought maybe the defense did not do as good of a job as they, I guess, could have. At the very least, maybe just similarly to the case in Allison, why wasn't criminal negligence? Why was not that one of the options? I don't know. I mean, I just don't understand that part.
Well, criminal negligent homicide is typically a lesser included charge. So it's within that range. Criminal negligent homicide, manslaughter, murder. The jury decided to charge him with murder. Okay. And they had a reasonable basis for that. He didn't stab him in the foot. Did he stab him in the baby toe?
No.
No, he
so
didn't.
I heard you say this.
Let me finish. Go ahead. No, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard you say this on one. This is what I want. This is how it's helping me understand this. You said on one of your shows, you said that in Texas, like you were saying, in Texas, you have a dead body. There was a weapon that was used. Even in Texas, weapons, firearms, and knives are legal, but it was used in a different manner or an illegal manner. So they were going to jail. Karmelo, and I guess to the point of Kaysen, in some aspect, they were going to jail. It's just a matter of how much time.
Yeah, I mean, was there a dangerous weapon involved? See, and a dangerous weapon can be a knife, it could be a bat, it could be a gun. It's the manner in use. Some things we know are dangerous weapons, like firearms, knives, dynamite. We know that's a dangerous weapon. But some things, you can take a pencil, and depending on how you use it and where you hit somebody, it is a dangerous weapon. So it's in the manner used. A car is used for transportation. But if you get angry with somebody and try to run them over in the gas station, it's a dangerous weapon. So that's one of the elements required to prove murder. So he used a dangerous weapon and he murdered somebody, and there was not and you can't say that you had a self-defense, because you can use ordinary force against somebody, but you can't use danger, or what I'm gonna say, extraordinary force against someone, which incorporates a dangerous weapon. And I just say that for the lay people, okay? So everybody can understand. If somebody punches you, you can punch them back. If somebody pulls a gun out on you, you can pull a gun out on them. If you think they have a gun, if they're reaching for a gun, if they have a knife, you can pull a gun. If they have a bat, if they try to run you down with a car, if they try to drop a ton of Acme bricks on your head while you walking under, you and Bugs Bunny are walking underneath a building. You see, you can defend yourself with deadly force. And that's a basic principle. Force match force. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I hope I answered that. I kind of went around.
No, that's fine. I did have one. KJ, you got a question? I had one question because I know you got to go. One more question. So my final question, attorney, I appreciate you being here. So I
Absolutely.
do. This is my question. Again, I've heard you talk about this, and I think you do a good job of this because in your commentary, I've seen you on your shows, you kind of in a funny way, but you're being serious. You're teaching. You will intersperse some commentary about race or racism and some qualifiers to your audience. And I like the little cajoling, like somebody put this in the chat, But this is my question. How should Black people, in particular, Black people, how should we? I'm saying we because I'm Black, but I really don't think like this. But how should we view or deal with this idea of racism, whether it's culturally, economically, because it seems to come up everywhere. It's more now than it was, I think, when my grandmother was living. Okay, so how are we supposed to? Because you admit racism is still here, but for many Black people, it seems to be their guiding post.
Yeah. Well, there's different kind of racism. There's I'm driving down the street, minding my business, and somebody with a Confederate flag hanging out his pickup truck hits me with the N-word. That's racism. That's bigotry. But then there's a type of racism that stops you from being able to attend the university you want to attend, live in the neighborhood you want to attend, prevents you from earning the amount of money, prevents you from being able to vote. Our ancestors fought like the Dickens to stop that type of racism. That's the institutional racism. It's one thing to call somebody the N-word. It's another thing to subject somebody to the treatment of an N-word, and there's nothing they can do about it. You're not going to change people's strongly held belief, okay? If you don't want to be called an N-word, then don't go to any country fair events, okay? It's just like a white boy hanging out in Compton, and then maybe you should not scream out the N-word in the middle of the projects, and you'll make it out. Same thing, act accordingly. I know, people want to be free to say whatever they want to say, wherever they want to say it. Nobody can tell. I'm grown. You can't tell them. And then you get beat up. Oh, racism. You shouldn't have had your Black behind over there in the first place with them hillbillies, okay? Just like if you're a white dude, don't be hanging out in Compton at night, smoking weed, listening to Snoop Dogg, talking about what set you from back in Kansas. Cut it out. Be intelligent. People will not like you in this world. It's just something you have to be grown up to understand. Like, you don't have to be liked. That's the problem with you people. You young people, I'm calling y'all young, but you young people won't be liked. I don't want to be liked. I'm mean as hell. You understand me? I don't care if you like me. I want you to leave me alone and we'll be fine. But the bottom line is there's institutional racism. There's that up close and personal racism. Our ancestors fought that fight. The institutional racism is the bad part, where you can live, where you can work, where you can go to university. You see what I'm saying? They made law. They fought for laws, fair housing, Voting Rights Act. That's what's important, not whether or not somebody that you want to date don't want to date you because you're too dark for them or too light for them. That's crazy. Why would you be so concerned about that? That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, because it's people that look, I don't like some people that Black, white, I don't like you either. So what? As long as it's not affecting me, you're not stopping me from eating, you're not stopping me from living where I want to live. And and that's the beauty of America. Let me tell you something else. I live in Texas and I know, I absolutely am certain I got some rednecks in my circle. You understand me? I got some pickup truck driving, N-word saying rednecks around me, especially since I practice jujitsu, and I can look at him. Look at this Viking right here. I know he can whisper the N-word in his mind. I don't care. You see what I'm saying? As long as you respect me, I done said some choice words too. I done threw a few that's out there in my mind too, but it don't matter. As long as we can come together, get this job done. I'm gonna go home to my house. You can go home to yours. If that's the extent of our relationship, fine. If we work together, look, man, Phil, you put the pickles up on aisle 7. I'm gonna go down here with the ground beef. I'll meet you back in the front. We don't need to stand each other. As long as we can get the job done. You don't have to like your fellow American, but we have to try to figure out a way to live in this country at peace. We can't keep going in the direction that we're going. There are people that don't even like us. There are people that want to fly over us and drop stuff on top of us. They go boom. You see what I'm saying? So as Americans, in the cold part about it is we've been in this country going on 500 years. We still haven't figured out how to get along. Nobody else likes us. Dear white people, the Europeans don't want you back there. You don't want to go back there anywhere. They don't have air conditioning. Black people, you know the Africans don't want you over there. You better not go over there. You better stay right here where you are. South Africans hitting you upside your head, sending you back across the Atlantic. So you better just love where you are, figure it out. It's not perfect, but there's not a whole lot of other places that I would rather live than the United States of America. Okay? That's all I got to say. I done ran out of water.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We gotta have you back on. Dennis Spurling. Please, before you leave, let people know where they can find you again and in your YouTube channel.
Oh, you can just Google Dennis Spurling. You know, you can find me. I drop a lot of videos. I talk about a lot of uncomfortable truths. I just say it. Like I said, I don't have an agenda. You know, I'm a registered Democrat, but I voted for Trump for the past couple of elections because that was in my interest to do that. Now, people could call me all kind of names, but it was in my interest. I was tired of seeing people coming up here hurting Americans. I don't want to go too deep into that. But one of the young ladies that was hurt by two immigrants was about 2 or 3 miles away from my office. You understand what I'm saying? And so as an American, it's like, hold on, we got where is the president? We got to shut this down. So Trump said he was going to do it, and that's why I voted for him. That doesn't mean I'm going to keep voting Republican. I vote mixed ticket anyway. But, you know, but my thing is I want to always do what's in the best interest of our country. And I'm not running for office, hell no. I don't even like y'all enough to take on your problems. But I do want this country to remain strong because I have children. I hope to have grandchildren one day. And it is incumbent upon all Americans to try to make this place better than it was when we left it, not worse. Okay, now I'm gonna say this. America historically has had flare-ups of racism, because this is something you mentioned earlier, and it goes away. Flare-ups and it goes away. If you go back to the end of Reconstruction, white folks was mad as hell. They lost their land. These Yankees then came down here and put this military down here, and these N-words are getting out of pocket and smacking people around and doing all kind of stuff. And so they bartered to have them leave. They had this deal, so they left. So then you had, after the Reconstruction ended, you had about 20 years of terror. We had to put them back in place. And then things calmed down a little bit. After World War II, black men came back, and we said, nah, we ain't gonna go for it no more. Things flared up again during the Civil Rights Movement. And you ladies popped up after about that when things got calm. You see what I'm saying? Around about 1965, things calmed down. Everybody was smoking weed and snorting lies and doing, what's it called? Funk, what's that? Disco dancing. Everybody was getting along. Yeah, John Travolta. Then things picked up a little bit, you know, around about Obama got elected. People got angry again, okay? And so now we at the height of that anger. But it goes in ebbs and flows. But we're still here, okay? Right. We're still here. Take care of yourself. Take care of your families. If people like you, you should like them, irrespective of what their color is or whatever. And, you know, because we're all Americans, man. We got to live here. You don't like it?
Amen. Thank you so much.
Amen. Praise God. Hallelujah.
All right. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
All right. Excellent.
All right.
Great. We had some super chats. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We have some super chats. We have. Oh my gosh, Kung Fu CJ. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ. He's talking about she is Maxine Waters 2.0. I think you're talking about Jasmine Crockett there. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ. Also, we have Kung Fu CJ again. I am way past my bedtime. Y'all lucky. I love y'all. Well, we love you too. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ, for staying here. Well, you ain't gone to bed yet, so you're back again. Dennis be shooting them down with their nonsense. That's right. All right, Kung Fu CJ. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this. I did. I think we all did. It was very breath of fresh air, the knowledge, the information, the education, breaking it down. So we need you to hit that like, share, and subscribe right there in that chat. Go ahead and do that and share our podcast. Share this podcast. We want to make this podcast go viral, just like our other shows that you support support. So go ahead, hit the like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and go to our website as well, where you can find out all information about our shows, www.metroconservative media. And go to Dennis Spurling's page too and tell him how much you like this.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, folks. Thank you guys so much. All right. So we're almost at the end of our time, but we want to talk about one more case if we could. And this one is a heavy one. This one is a heavy case. But it's been in the news, and we want to talk about the case of Precious Bland. All right. This is the case of a mother who drowned her toddler daughter in a bathtub doing what she and experts described as a COVID-induced psychotic break. All right. Then she stabbed her husband and teenage daughter. But guess what, folks? She was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Take a look at this. This is insane. All right. This is clip 4.
Tears filled the courtroom as the mother who admitted to killing her baby daughter was found not guilty by reason of insanity following a 2-day bench trial.
As to count 1, aggravated manslaughter, the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity. As to count 2, attempted murder in the first degree, the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity. And as to count 3, attempted murder in the first degree, the defendant is not guilty by reason of insanity.
Moments after learning she would not be convicted, Precious Bland spoke briefly outside the courtroom.
God is good. This doesn't bring back my daughter. I'm thankful. I love my children.
State prosecutors tried to prove that this mother of 6 killed her 15-month-old because she told investigators her husband was cheating.
The voices and the COVID psychosis is a fabrication and an embellished story.
The judge didn't buy it.
That theory, it doesn't make sense to me that she decided to do all the things that she did, going to all the neighbors, calling her family members, putting the kids in the water, all of it because she was angry due to some perceived infidelity.
Her lawyers argued Bland was overcome by the voices in her head and had a COVID-induced psychotic break.
Satan is a deceiver.
There's so much that we don't know about COVID, and this was, one of the first cases in the country to go to trial on COVID being in the defense to murder.
Bland spent 3.5 years behind bars before being released about a year ago. Now, after a judge cleared her of criminal responsibility in her daughter's death, she says she's focused on moving forward.
Just ready to get my life back together, my husband and my children, and just move forward.
All right. Let's get into this. Shocking verdict. Again, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity in a bench trial. Shelley, what are your thoughts? I know you've been following this case.
Well, I've been looking at it, and I was trying to look at it from the defense's position. I know Florida has one of the narrowest, from what I understand, the narrowest statutes for using a defense of criminal insanity. So narrow is meaning it's the hardest. It's one of the hardest states to use that defense. But when you use that insanity defense, from what I understand, let me look at my notes here. It's called an affirmative. It's an affirmative defense, means that the defense, they can't just say by reason. The defense has to prove or overcome a burden after they initiate that particular defense. I'm still speechless.
Nicole, what Shelley was saying is right. Both defense and prosecution's own psychological evaluator agreed she met Florida's legal standard for insanity at the time. She did not understand the wrongfulness of her actions due to mental disease or defect. Your thoughts, Nicole?
A part of that statute that has Florida lawmakers taking a second look at that particular statute is it's a moment in time. It's like a snapshot. What was her mind doing in that particular moment? COVID psychosis is a thing, but it is incredibly rare, incredibly so. And this is the first time that someone actually acted on it. Usually when people start acting funky and talking about God's going to come kill them and all of that, their family is proactive and calls 911 and they're hospitalized until they can their mind can kind of right itself. But in this instance, she decided that she needed to baptize everybody in the house, and started with the child, because she has four children, the one that was closest to her, the 15-month-old, and decided to put her into a tub and hold her down under the water. And although this child was fighting her, scratching her, biting her, trying to save her life, and every time she let her up a little bit, screaming and hollering, that's what brought the husband in. She stabs the husband. He goes running for his life. The teenage daughter comes, and she stabs the teenage daughter. Now, keep in mind, I said that she was drowning one, suddenly produced a knife, stabbed 2 other people. They grab the rest of the kids and run out. She's still there with the toddler and kills the toddler. Now, a moment in time, what made this case super despicable to me was, one, that she did not have a jury trial. It was a directed verdict from the judge. That's a problem, because he's not looking at it as a member of this community. He's looking at it strictly from a legal standpoint. And if our system was designed to do that all the time, lots of people would be getting away with all kind of stuff, right? Because judges they're using their training, their legal train of thought, instead of the mores and things of the particular community. Now, I don't know about you, but a dead toddler is a problem for me. When we talked about how the Hispanic community was upset that Kaysen didn't get more time in jail because their community standard says for life, it should be worth more than 10 years. What I've said publicly about Austin Metcalf, 35 years is not enough for a young American man. It is just not. 3 years in jail is not enough for the life of this toddler. It simply
she didn't get any time. She that was the time she spent prior.
They gave her credit for time served.
What I don't understand, the thing that I don't understand most about this is, okay, they found her insane, but she's allowed to remain at home. She was on house arrest with GPS monitoring, but she wasn't put into any type of insane asylum.
Because that's a different process. That's a different process that they have to, deem her to whatever asylum or whatever facility. That's a whole different process. She is legal process as far as them figuring out what
she's home. She's not going to the insane asylum.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So she doesn't have to. If she were going to, that would be a whole different process, is what I'm saying. That's not a different process. But she has been acquitted, I should say. And let me correct myself. I said that they gave her credit for time served.
Wait a minute. How can she be deemed insane and not given not put into an insane asylum?
Because they're not saying typical. They're not saying typically insane. When you hear what they said she had a psychotic break. And again, this is what I'm saying. It's just a moment in time. In this particular moment in time, her mind broke. The fever was so high and COVID was so rampant in her brain, it caused her to live in a different realm. If you think about it, you know how sometimes
she may not even go to an insane asylum.
She's not going to do anything. The way this judge's directed verdict says that they'll have community supervision look at her, I think once or twice a year. For all intents and purposes, she has absolutely gotten away with the murder of this child. But, I have this theory. The prosecution could have done better. Let's just say that. The theory that, her husband was about to leave her and she wanted to get even with him, so she drowned the baby, is just foolishness. This is not Lifetime movies. This is not a Hallmark situation. That was an absolute foolish argument. Whether true or not, after she done stabbed the hell out of him, I bet you he ain't going nowhere. I bet you he's not leaving her now.
Apparently, from again, this is just what I'm reading in media, so I cannot vouch for the validity of it. Apparently, the other children are still, I guess, in both of their custodies. The husband, or Evan, he has not left her. But this is one of the things is that, Nicole, you mentioned about the bench trial. Well, in order to not have a bench trial, Florida would have to change their whole statutes. That would have to go back to the Florida legislature, because you can choose a bench trial or waive yourself for a jury trial. So in doing that, her team was not doing anything
it's not wrong. Yeah,
right.
It's not wrong. It's just smart strategy.
They chose the best strategy. Right. They chose the best strategy for their client that they could think of in this circumstance. But again, she literally walked away. And I said they may have given her time credit for time served. That may not be correct. I don't think she did that. I think she was just acquitted. So I think she just acquitted. She was just outright acquitted all that time. Yeah.
Here's the video. She did an interview after the acquittal. And here she is speaking on it. Take a look here.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I also am very humbled. This was a long time coming. I spent 4 years.
Can you hear her?
No, barely.
She's speaking so low.
Lots of ups and downs. I had a wonderful lawyer that believed in me from the start. And he fought and he fought and he fought nail and tooth for me. And I couldn't have asked for anyone better. My family stood behind me. I remember the coming out on house arrest and reading comments on social media. It was rough. It was hard. People were really quick to judge. And a lot of things they were saying were terrible. Why? Because they don't know me. And it's really easy to judge someone, to judge a situation. My daughter is not here.
All right. I'm not sure if you guys could hear. She's speaking so softly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She's when I saw this, again, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not diagnosing her, but in my never to be humble opinion, she is crazy. She has a form of Munchausen syndrome added with some narcissism there. She's making this all about her. Notice she kind of distances herself from actually committing the crime, the murder, if you will. I know she wasn't charged for that. I'm using that, but she distances herself. She says, my daughter's not here, as if someone took her daughter from her, right? As if someone else did this deed, and that people don't know how hard it was. She's the center, not the daughter, not the dead child, not the other daughter and the husband that she stabbed. She's the center. This woman, this person, I think personally, she does need to be committed somewhere, but she's not doing it.
Well, let me see if this is a better one for you, because I want to make sure people hear her. See if this is better.
Look at her body language too.
Right. Do you take responsibility for the death of your daughter?
It's a hard thing, but absolutely. I know people say, well, just because she was in psychosis doesn't mean that she shouldn't have to take responsibility. Every morning I open my eyes, I take responsibility. Every morning I open my eyes and have to walk in the sense it's like the entire time I was like, okay, now the candid cameras can come out. Like, I don't know what this is, but somebody's going to come and say, hey, look, your baby's fine. Like, this was all just one big elaborate joke to see how you handle pressure. I have to wake up with the fact every day that my daughter is gone because of something that was outside of what I could contain and what I can do, and what I experienced on that day was definitely something that was not normal. I can't even explain. It was something that was so strong, and I dare to say so demonic in nature. And to hear a voice and to not want to do it, but you hear something, and if you don't want to do it, it's going to make you do it. That's something I could not understand and could not come to terms with.
Wow, that woman there does not appear like she's capable of doing the.
All right.
Yeah, so let's learn a little bit about who she is prior to the drowning of her daughter. She's a trained soldier. She was in the Navy. She also was in George Bush's bodyguard corps. So this is not some shrinking violet, as Kung Fu CJ said in the chat. She's also Haitian, and you can hear it in her voice and the way that she conducts herself. Yeah, but this is the thing that they tried to keep off the internet about her being Haitian, of Haitian descent.
Voodoo.
This part, right? So all of this, you are quote unquote a trained killer. And yes, you had COVID. And yes, when you started acting out of character, you're the first person in the nation whose family did not call 911 to come help you. But you tried to drown a toddler, then stabbed your husband, stabbed a teenager, and then came back and drowned this toddler. So, you know, facts be damned, the judge in his ruling was so hell-bent on looking at this COVID psychosis and something bigger and greater than the community standard. I'm so angry with the prosecution because they argued their case as if they were talking to a jury of her peers. They were not. They should have solely stuck to the legal argument, right? If this was a regular trial and there were 12 people sitting in a jury box, they could have successfully argued her husband was cheating on her. He was leaving her. The girlfriend was pregnant and she wanted out. She wanted to hurt him to his core. There would have been at least one person on that jury who would have been like, you know, and I don't like the way she looked, like we're doing. And looking at her saying, there's something not quite right. Like there's something wrong. The elevator doesn't go all the way up. The picnic basket short one sandwich. There's something wrong with her, and your human eyes can see that. But the judge doesn't look at her like a human. He's only looking at the legal argument. That's how the defense won this case, by not putting it in front of a jury of her peers. Because I'm going to tell you, 12 people, her ass would be in prison. Make no mistake. There would be justice for this baby. She wouldn't be sitting there going, how do you feel? Oh, I feel great. I feel happy. How do you feel happy? Your 15-month-old is dead. You've stabbed your teenager. You just stabbed your husband. How do those kids come home to this mother? Because listen, if you've killed my sibling, I don't care what was going on in your life. I don't want to come home to you, because what happens when mom pops off again? What happens then? She's not getting any treatment. She's not being held at any community standards. You get more community control put in place for traffic tickets, for stealing food out of the grocery store, stealing something from Walmart. They put you on probation. You got to report. You got to do UAs. You got to do all this other stuff. She's going home.
Yeah.
Going clean home. Ridiculous.
We have a let me read the super chat here. I think this is from Kung Fu CJ again. You're still awake, huh? Thank you for your $2. So COVID makes you crazy. Yeah. So we have an example, exemplar here that says so. Unfortunately, it made her crazy, but now we have 3 victims and one of them being dead. And so, all of her craziness caused this, but we buried the baby and 2 other people get stabbed, and she's the one that's okay. Yeah.
Oh, she's at home baking biscuits, honey, making beans and rice, minding her business. And this is the reason why the legislators are so angry. There are legislators in Florida who are following this case because, COVID psychosis is a thing, but it is incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. And then her reaction to this COVID psychosis, where she actually committed violence, is even more rare. Exactly. So there were a lot of eyes.
What about the COVID caused her to commit violence? I'm not connecting the COVID.
Just to simplify it, basically it caused some kind of systemic chemical inflammatory reaction between her brain and her body. So it's like a fever or something. And so these are the kind of things I'm just simplifying it very much. But this is what she's saying that's why it was specific to that time at that moment in that circumstance. She didn't, as far as we know, she doesn't have a history of mental illness. And after that, she has not exhibited, quote, any clinical mental illness signs. So she's just talking about it now. But anyway, but I want to say this as we close out. this week, all of these different cases, and even the cases we're talking about now, it kind of just gives me pause that in as great as country as we have, our legal system is only as quote unquote perfect as the people who manage it. I'll say manage. Okay. It's not a perfect system. And the law, as many laws as we have, as many laws that we have, some laws conflict with each other in the same jurisdiction at the same trial, no less. So it's a risk. It's a benefit versus risk, if you will, at whatever time, whatever the trial is, whatever the charges are, who the people are that are involved. Point right here, her defense weigh the benefit versus the risk of having a jury or a bench trial. So take it for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's good or bad, right or wrong. This is the system we have, and it's only going to be as good or as useful as we all kind of make it.
Agreed. And then Shelley, that brings me to my I guess final point for the evening. And although this is not pop and politics, let me just say to you guys, please vote. Please vote. You have to vote. This is how you get yourself into the jury pool. And when you get that summons to do your duty, your civic duty, do it. Do it. Because this baby killer is roaming free with 4 other kids that are ripe for the killing and a husband who's scared to damn death. He can say what he wants to. But and my last point about the case, when you saw him hugging her in the back when the verdict was read, he's too big of a dude. I don't know what kind of man would let her drown my toddler as big as he is. You know,
it's so many questions about this. I mean, for me, when I look at cases like this, when I'm looking at the headlines, the racial, contention in the country, honestly, it pushes me back to my Bible. I gotta say, it makes me, even like this case, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. It really does. And the way I didn't know that she was Haitian, so that's another thing there. I mean, folks, if this doesn't tell you, get on your knees and pray for people, read your Bible, get closer to God, because we are living in a chaotic world. In time. Get anchored. Get anchored in prayer, anchored in God's word, anchored in the truth, and pray for your family, pray for protection. All right,
one more super chat before we go.
Okay.
3=1. Thank you for joining us tonight. She comes across as emotionally detached. I hope her husband looks out for their children. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe, we don't know. Maybe he's staying with her because if he leaves, then she will have the rest of the children under her care. I don't know. I'm just saying,
he should be able to get custody with this.
I mean, he should be, but it doesn't happen overnight. That's what I'm saying, because legally she was acquitted. So.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, he's probably scared to death. You know, we don't know what happened between them at closed doors. Again, he is a gigantic man. And that gigantic man could not stop her from drowning his daughter. Are you serious? We wouldn't have had a trial. I would have sent her to the Lord. He could have made that decision. She couldn't drown my baby. She could not have. And not have a damn scratch on her except for the fighting that the toddler did. They were reports where that the toddler clawed her trying to save her life. And here's this big hunking dad. What the hell, dude? I mean, really, this case was so infuriating. And the more and more I looked into it, and I wanted to kind of figure out what their life was like before the case happened. The prosecution had some damning evidence about him being a philanderer. Yeah. Okay. But if that's not going to win a case, again, when the judge is only looking at the law, if there were people sitting in that jury looking at her and 3=1 is correct, she looks disassociated, like she's not connected to the planet the same way that we are. Some people say she kind of looks unbothered.
She does.
For me, it's not so much unbothered. It's like she's narcissistic. Like
narcissistic, I think, with a case of Munchausen in it.
Absolutely. Munchausen by proxy, where the world revolves around me and everything around me. And I think the prosecutor saw that, and that's why they went after that argument, is that, look at this woman. Would this be the type of woman that would kill her husband's child in order to hurt him? Now, the way that they painted her, the defense was like, oh, she's a loving mother. She's a veteran. She's, with George Bush and all this other stuff. It made her seem like something she's wholly not. They may be things that she's done in her life, but we're not here to talk about her standing on honor guard with George Bush. We're not here talking about her being on a Navy ship. We're here talking about this grown woman holding her own baby down in a tub full of water, who fought off allegedly a grown ass man who allowed it. Foolishness, absolute foolishness.
Yeah, but KJ, you're right. I mean, it's chaotic, and like you said, getting back to prayer on your knees. That's
Yeah. All right, folks.
All right, everybody.
We will be back on next Thursday, folks. Make sure you hit that like button. We got over 70 people watching. We only got 60 likes. So get the likes up, hit the like button. That helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience. We appreciate you all. We appreciate the support. Have a happy 4th of July weekend, folks. Enjoy your weekend. If you're like me, enjoy this hot weather. Let it soak in that sun. Nicole,
this morning, I left my house this morning at 6:30. It was 82 degrees. And as I was limping out the house, I was like, that damn KJ. Heard this.
Good night, everybody.
All
Good
right.
night. Court is adjourned.
Yes.
Good night.
Oops. Wait. Oh, okay.